Greetings, sir and sirettes, and welcome back to From the Depths with me, Lathrix, and of course, welcome back to Building the Fleet, in which we're going to be having a nice, relaxed episode today. Today, we are going to be building quite a small craft to add to our fleet, and that is going to be a small, sort of harasser distraction submarine. This thing should be fairly quick, at least in comparison to my other subs, which have been very, very slow, and it should have decent armament. I'm not quite sure how heavily armored it's going to be, but it's definitely not going to be a very large craft. I'm aiming at maybe 2,000 volume, 3,000 pushing it, and that's pretty much it. Consider this one of these videos where I'm just getting back into the flow of the game again, because as you can probably tell, I've just took a month break from the Depths because I was getting really, really burnt out. Every time I tried to play it, I was just not in the mood for it, and honestly, I was getting heavily bored, which does happen when you've played a game for thousands of hours. Yeah, sometimes you just need a few weeks off, and now we are back, and I am really ready to get building again. After this, I will be going back to the Ashes of the Empire campaign, in which I have an idea for a nice little base. But today, we're just going to relax, we're just going to see what happens, and hopefully we will create something useful, if not terribly original. And the thing is, I'm just thinking, do I want this to be able to even target enemies out of the water, or should it be dedicated to only targeting waterborne targets? I think it should be dedicated. I am now getting more in the theme of building things which are dedicated to a single cause. Now, one thing I do want to do is add stone around the AI. So let's redo that. Metal on the outside still. Let's just add a couple of these. Actually, remember to turn on mirror mode. I hear that is a very helpful thing to do. There we are. And this will be where the AI is stored, and I can make it smaller later. So AI, cards and slots, put it on both sides, because why not? Now, the good thing with a sub is if we use purely torpedoes, we don't really need that strong of a detection system because the torpedoes themselves have their own detection system, which is really, really helpful, which would be utterly fantastic. Okay, now, naval AI, that's fine. I was tempted to use land for a second there, but really we don't need that. I would like the ability to choose what we're targeting, and that's pretty much that, honestly. Do we need anything else for the AI? I really, really don't think we do. Once again, mirror mode, thank you. And I'll just neaten that up in a little while. Well, we certainly don't need that. So, why use stone over using wood? Well, stone is definitely a lot heavier. It's also double the cost. I know it's not exactly much, 1 to 2, wow. But it is still more expensive, but it does add a decent amount of armor, unlike wood, which is pretty much worthless. 180 health, 3 armor. The stone block, 300 health, so already almost doubling that, and then over double the armor value, which of course is very, very nice. Once again, we can just remove that. There we are, lovely. I would like that corner to be done though, thank you very much. And then we'll just shove this in here. We will add some space armor around that, but consider that it's basic EMP protection. I also realise that this may be a bit of a boring video considering, well, this is literally just after making the submarine tutorial. But of course, this is less of a tutorial, more about me just actually making something. So I'm hoping it'll be interesting anyway. Sometimes you've just got to do what actually interests you. Okay, now what type of engine should this thing have? Honestly, fuel would be a smart choice, but I think I may go with steam just because it would be easier within the fleet to maintain the materials rather than maintaining fuel. At the moment, we have no refueling ships, we have, honestly, very few fuel engines at all, and I don't think something like this should really stand out in that way. So it's more of a choice of convenience than a choice of actual efficiency. I've definitely said that so many times before, though, when it comes to the fuel engine. A lot of the times, I will just ignore them, even though I do say they're better, because steam is just so much easier. Okay, let's add a little gap there, which we'll work on in a little while. Then this will be the steam room. And we'll also house some of our energy. So what I want to do is, let's add 3 there, then 4 of this. It tends to be better to build in this way, having one layer like this, then one layer like that. Not going to bother with any space armor or anything here, just at least a couple layers of armor in the core, and then of course we'll be adding more on the outside, just as a nice basic bit of protection there. And then for steam, we're just going to have one of the larger steam things. I think you can actually use the smaller one, but I just prefer this one anyway, so let's go with that. Okay, some of the basics are now down, and we are sitting at just over 1,000 volume, so I think the 3,000 mark is very doable right now. Maybe a little bit more, though, which is, let's face it, what always happens with all of my builds. I don't think anyone is too surprised by that. Currently, we have 7,680 engine power, although that could be increased with other sources of battery life around the ship. Well, now we need to figure out where the weapons are going to go. So, mostly, we're going to focus on torpedoes. Now, normally, I have all of my torpedoes sort of facing sideways. I have them broadsiding, which generally is the best bet. But for once, I kind of want them facing forward. So, I'm considering maybe having the weapon system itself here in the middle, and then branching it out to the sides. And I'm thinking, rather than having loads of shots, for once, going with quality over quantity. I normally go so much with quantity, I even forgot about that for a second. So, let's put it here for a sec. May end up moving that in a little while, but for now, let's just say this is the final area just for the sake of building. And this will, of course, be the main weapon. And yes, people have probably seen me make missiles way too many times, but again, consider this just a nice, fun, relaxed video. So, if we put it all the way back here, though, that gives so many lines of vulnerability it hurts. So maybe instead it would be better to have two of the systems. Putting it here wouldn't be good, because then we have too many vulnerable things all in one little capsule. So maybe just having two of them like this, and having the torpedoes here. But I'd rather have them, I don't know why, but I think it would look better if they have them here, and then they come inwards like this. So how about if we do something like this? Launch pad there, launch pad there. Then one launch pad a bit lower, perhaps here. I have redone the front like 6 times at this point. It's amazing how rusty you can get a game after just 1 month away from it. So, I had a bit of an idea to do something like this. So we have 3 separate sections, all which will have 1 chair and 1 controller. That way it looks like the front is split into 3 separate sections. It's all nice and controlled, but I don't know how I feel about this, honestly. It's not too bad. I think the front just looks a little bit too small. The problem is I can't really expand it with how I've done these torpedoes, and I also can't expand it without hitting some problems with its overall volume. How about if I make this less opaque? Okay, I do prefer that, although that was a little bit extreme. Let's try maybe about here. Okay, yeah, I like that. I do like that. So once again, control. Let's have our ship controllers. And let's just put them here. There we go. Maybe leave these open. Yeah, leave them open. That way you can drown whilst you're using the sub. That seems reasonable. Or perhaps we could add doors like this. That way you can get out at least. I think that they work like that, don't they? Let's have a quick look-see. Okay, we're inside one of them. We open the hatch. And there we go. There we go. Really? I can't jump high enough to get out of here. It's only a small gap. What's going on? Oh, it's because of how the sub's moving. It's causing me to not get enough altitude. There we go. Now it's stopped a little bit. That will work, but it will be awkward. I can work on that later. Yeah, still not sure about how I like this front section. I could make it a little bit bigger by extending this section underneath and this section above, though. Yeah, that's what I'll do. Although I can't extend it here, that's fine. Just pretend it's being extended by working on this section first. A few basics in place, just to make sure this thing doesn't instantly fall into the very depths of the water. So, let's test out the weapon system. So right now what we have are 8 long torpedoes on both sides. We have 6 on both sides. These do not have the most strength, but they are very quick and very agile. The idea is, this is an interceptor. Those should be able to intercept even fast, agile ships, especially when this thing is actually chasing them down. That's the idea anyway. So, what should I spawn in? Let's go with something different to usual. How about the Kalmar? Which is totally the wrong way. Okay, that may be a bit difficult, but still. Yeah, it's fine, okay. Here they come. Not the strongest in the world, but definitely a fair bit of damage done there. So that's, yeah, it's fine. Got there quickly. Did damage, should be able to chase down fast enemies. Yep, that's fine. Oh, wow, yeah. There's a few holes in this ship now. It can be difficult to tell with fully wooden ships because they have the tendency to float no matter how much you do damage to them. Because, you know, they're wood. They float. Oh, look at it slowly sinking. Okay. Now, what to do? Okay, we need to do the back section, we need to do the secondary weapon system, and we need to do the depth so that it doesn't, you know, just float downwards slowly. Now, I do want this thing to be quicker than my old designs. The problem is I haven't actually left myself enough space for some of the stuff I wanted to do, so I may need to sacrifice a few areas just to make sure it all works correctly. Okay, yep, that's a lot faster. We're now going about 25 meters per second because of a small internal blade at the very back. It's not quick, but it should be fast enough for most of our purposes. You know, I really hate that front. Yeah, I'm gonna definitely do something with the look of this thing. It looks too much like a lot of our older ones, which were very heavily armored, but the armored brick kind of design, and I don't like that. Some people will, I don't. Well, I do, I've just done it too many times. Okay, also we're about to crash into that because we are not actually able to maintain our depth at the moment. Just stay stable. It's been given some very basic AI now. Okay, it's actually altering itself based on the terrain, that's what I wanted to see. And it should fire, yep, once it's facing the enemy. Problem is, as you can see, it does alter itself a bit too quickly. But still, it fired its weapon correctly, and it moved correctly. It just wants to be a dolphin. That's what it is. It's a beautiful dolphin, and no one can let it be told otherwise. You're a dolphin too. Be free, little missile. It turns out the pitching was actually an issue with how I'd placed some of the rotors, nothing to do with how it was handling the terrain, so whoops-a-daisy there. Lovely. So, what I want to see now, I've actually slowed it down just to see how this works. It's now down to, I think, 5 meters per second. Oh, it's actually killed the enemy in the first volley. Well, that's what I actually wanted to see. It turning away from the enemy upon reaching 500 meters. So let's put down another one. Turn off its AI, so it's just sitting there. What should happen is I should turn away. Now, of course, normally this would be much, much faster. Then I should get away from the enemy. Upon reaching a certain distance, I then should turn back around and then start firing the missiles once again. Now, during this phase, it won't be firing its main weapon, because it can only fire those if they're facing directly forwards, and this is when the side weapons need to be added. This way, we're constantly doing lots of little bits of damage during this phase, which should be almost like the finishing off. The idea I've got in my head is that this will always intercept a target. It's not meant for the true battlefield, but it can be swarm used in high numbers, and that it's shooting those much larger, much faster missiles, sorry, torpedoes, to take out the enemy so it can't move. That's why I'm actually tempted to make them EMP, and then when it gets close enough, it'll just pepper away with very small torpedoes until the enemy is eventually downed. Yep, it worked. It got far enough away, and now it's heading back, and it once again fires the main. Essentially, it works like the Mosquito from the Ashes of the Empire. All good. All good. I've only just realised I know the lore of this thing already. Since we are already making the huge Kraken, which can take down enemies into the water and simply devour them in the depths, well, this is one of its drones, because the whole idea of that thing is that it's a runaway drone, a runaway single entity, which is no longer serving humanity, but instead is basically scrapping and devouring everything it can see. Well, this is an interceptor which follows it along and then chases down the faster targets where the quite honestly slow and sluggish scrapper can simply not go. So this thing is just one of its minions. And now I want to make an even smaller version, like a fighter. Oh my god, like a fighter. Which it will release in battle. Well, now I've got a whole lore bit in my head, which is always lovely. Do I really want them this small? Could have even... Yeah, I could do really, really heavy swarm missiles, which I haven't done in ages, so maybe that. This will be one of the final tests. So, as usual, the rotor at the back is turned off, so he can't move very fast, but it at least allows us to see what's going on. I don't really want this thing going 2 to 3 times faster when I'm trying to see little details. Okay, we got within the range of the smaller missiles. We're now turning away, as was intended. They do seem to bounce a bit. That's not really a huge issue, it's just weird looking. I guess it's because they're being fired as we turn, so they're being fired at a very slight angle. Maybe these things aren't quite agile enough. They do have 2 warheads each, which is pretty good considering how small they are. They are basically minimal size. Well, minimal size +1, I should say. Oh, there we go. We did actually kill the target, though, so it did work. In fact, it worked exactly how it should have. The first shot, let's pretend it crippled it, then the next wave actually finished off the target. Remember, we are only 3,000 volume, and actually currently we're slightly lower than 3,000, so for its volume, I think it's actually doing pretty well. Now, what I'd like to see is how well this thing can take damage. Here's where I'm actually kind of nervous, because I don't think I've done a fantastic job in the core, but I think I've done well on the outer areas and with the ammo section. So we'll see how well it will handle some decent firepower without any shields. We could also add shields, we do have the energy for it. This is the test version of the Plague Guard, and apparently it can't hit the darn target. Come on, there we go. We have no repair bots currently. Yeah, I was expecting the Cram to actually hit this thing. It has hit subs in the past, but apparently not this one. At least the Torps are hitting it. There we go, I just wanted to see. Okay, some outer armor destroyed, but that definitely wouldn't have done anything in terms of the control of this craft. Okay, good, good. Hit again, please. Thank you. Outer shell removed, inner shell still very much intact. Ooh, that was a nasty one. Still okay. Okay, major breach there, and that did remove some of the ammo. That's one of 2 ammo sections currently removed. Still, only 30% health lost, and we are just taking this. Do you still work? Yeah, AI is still moving it as it should. It should now try and run away. Ooh, backup weapons aren't firing. Why? Why aren't you firing your weapons? That's interesting. Something's gone wrong at the back and the front. Maybe it lost its... Oh, radar. Not radar, it's transceiver. You've got to give this little thing credit. It's not dying. But there is a lot of backup systems in this. As I always tend to do, I like redundancy on my craft, so you will have to pretty much remove everything for something to fail. So pitch is still fine. It looks like depth, yep, it's all just fine. Don't know why it's not firing its weapon, though. Now, the front weapons can't fire unless I'm facing directly at the enemy, so that makes sense, it's not firing. The reverse weapons should have been able to fire there. Now, of course, the back section is the most unfinished. As you can see, it's like got a gap at the bottom. Oh, we probably just lost the controller at the back. That makes sense. Looks like its turning's impaired. It actually just tried to turn and failed. Yeah, turning right now is difficult. Okay, though, I mean, we were testing out the core protections, not the newer stuff, and that seemed to do just fine. I do love my tests. Don't worry, though, future builds will be more exciting than this thing. I just wanted to make sure all the basics were working okay. Oh, right in the front. Maybe it did lose its transceiver, because that should have fired then. Yeah, a section of the AI must have got damaged. Okay, well, thank you very much, Black God. Rise, my child. Rise from the depths. While still being hit. Thank you, layered armor. Here's a weird thing. Apparently I'm healing it from all the way over there. Okay, sure thing, game. So, I was correct. The transceiver got knocked out straight away. I'd actually armored up the AI section wrong. So there was a whole section basically missing because I had replaced it and then forgot that, oh, wait, I still need to armor up the top. So one of the explosions must have just clipped it and just turned off all the weapons. I'm actually amazed it wasn't AI dead from the first shot. Other than that, yeah, it did a lot better than expected. So now I'm going to armor up the back section, going to redo that whole AI section so that won't happen again, and I'm going to test it out yet again. Also, I keep saying transceiver rather than transmitter. I've been playing other games where the word transceiver's been used, and well, apparently it's got right in my head. Number 7 for repair. Apparently glitching out a little bit there, that's fine. The 3,000 volume limit has now been hit. We are now on 3,280, and our cost is actually a lot lower than I expected, at only 33,000. For its cost and its size, I'm actually really proud of it, weirdly. I mean, the whole time I've been building this, I've got to be honest, I was thinking to myself, Lathrix, you have got so much worse. But now I'm seeing the end product sort of come together, even though my speech is apparently no much better. Yeah, it's gonna be just fine, and it is in the same style as the other drones, so I guess that's good as well. And when I paint the drones, I will also give this one a paint job as well. So then, let's see how it fares in an actual fight then. So, obviously it's a sub, it will have things it's better against and things it's weaker against. And I'm going to be a bit of a coward and to start off with, fight against something I assume it's going to be good against. Which would be something like... if I can actually find the thing I'm after. The Kingstead. Now, the Kingstead's amazing. It has so much armor and so much everything. It's really expensive, but it just has cram cannons, so it shouldn't be too effective actually hitting the sub unless it got updated. Maybe it actually has things like torpedoes. I don't know, but let's find out together. Plus, I honestly just haven't seen the Kingstead in ages, and we're apparently really close to it straight away. Okay, our little butt missiles there, instantly firing off. Okay, it does have some advanced cannons. They're going to be a problem. So let's see if it can take out something much larger than itself that it's meant to counter. The little finisher torpedo's doing some work. Has our own health. 100% versus 100%. Oh yeah, forgot to turn on the back rotors. Well, that's a thing. Not quite as fast as we're meant to be, but that's fine. Incoming the main weapon. I did a lot better. Loads of chunks falling off and a whole 1% health taken. Yep. This is definitely not designed for this type of fight. Just hoping that constant sustained damage will be the victor in the end. Oh, we just took a direct hit. I'll add another one. Okay, our own armor is definitely sustaining the damage just fine. And that one just kind of got deflected. Its AI is working exactly like I wanted it to, so I'm really happy about that. I'll probably just skip ahead until something interesting happens. I would say I'll do a time lapse. The problem is you can't see the sub very well, so you'd just be watching this thing fire into the water. Its ammo's low. Maybe I should add some ammo processors. That would make sense as well for its role. Burning through resource when it's actually in range to do so. Wow. This thing is just made of armor, isn't it? I feel like this will eventually be a victory for the sub, because the weapons just don't actually work very well against it, but... yeah, this is a silly fight. I should pick something better suited. Maybe one of the white flyer ships that can actually fight back. A few chunks missing here and there. Not terrible. Trying to find a balanced enemy is actually very difficult, as this sub either seems to dominate enemies or get absolutely destroyed by them. So, what about the Ripper? If I recall correctly, this has a really nasty advanced cannon, but it doesn't fly. So, yeah, it's like half of the white flyer ships do actually sort of fly or at least float above the water, so obviously they counter torpedoes. Was I correct? Looks like I can see some fire. Yep, has advanced cannon and, well, looks of things. Were they torpedoes it just fired? Or am I going mental? No, they are indeed torpedoes. Okay, so it does indeed have torpedoes. Fantastic. Agility needs to be improved. Good to know. Thankfully, that's the sort of thing you can fix sort of on the fly. Okay, now close enough to shoot the side missiles. And by missiles, of course, I meant to say torpedoes, which are a type of missile in this game. Okay, the advanced cannon shots are actually landing. That's good to know. So this is a pretty decent fight then. Currently, the sub is at more health than the Ripper. Though that, of course, can change depending on how good a shot the Ripper actually gets. Seems to be handling the explosions very well. Yeah, incredibly well. It's backing off and is actually gaining distance now, which is what I wanted to see. Quite a sluggish fight. Oh. Looks like something's been removed from the Ripper. Oh, and they were the main weapons. Seems like it did manage to get a full cycle off. They got far enough away to turn back around and then lob the main weapon. The side weapons, of course, doing their thing. And there we have it. The sub does indeed win that fight. I'm not actually on the sub, am I? No, good. Just making sure I wasn't healing it all that time, because that would have been really annoying. Okay, that was alright, actually. Not the best craft in the world, and honestly, those torpedoes did not do what I expected them to do. So, I think the larger torpedoes do a lot of damage, but they're not as agile as I thought they were. They're about as fast as I thought they were going to be, but I could sacrifice a bit more damage for extra speed and extra agility. I may do that. The back missiles definitely need to be more agile, so I'll be right back once I've made that change, and then we're redoing that fight. Seriously though, I've tested this thing out against maybe 20 enemies, and it's either instant victory or instant defeat. This is the first one where it actually had a fight. Well, I figured out the problem. The front torpedoes, I'd accidentally removed the prediction guidance, meaning that it was just going towards the enemy, not trying to figure out where the enemy was heading, thus meaning that the torpedoes seem to always be lagging behind the enemy. This time, it should go a bit better. There they go. Torpedoes being released by the enemy as well. Out of interest, how expensive is the Ripper? Wow, it's like almost the exact same cost. That is weird. Yeah, there we go. Look how much better they're actually hitting. That first volley instantly knocking out its movement capabilities. Turning a little bit early there. That's surprising. Oh, no, it was turning because of the clearance with that bit of land. Okay. I see what's happening there. You're a sitting duck now, laddie. Maybe they're being fired too close together. If you saw then, those actually got moved away by some of the other explosions. But still. That works. First shot to paralyze the enemy, then just going in for the kill. How expensive are we? 36,000. Yep, that's fine for that, honestly. 3,400 volume, 36,000 resource. Seems to take damage very well, has an okay amount of firepower, and it counters some things while being countered by others. So it's a very situational, but very effective craft for the limited cost. I am happy with that. After a long break, I am really happy with that design, and so that needs a name and is going in the end fleet for the Building the Fleet series. If you have enjoyed the video, then of course, likes, favourites, shares, comments, all that good stuff helps out me, helps out the channel, and most importantly, shows that From the Depths is a series you wish to see continued in the future. Now, sadly, over the weekend, I will be back in England because my mum's going into hospital very briefly. Again, nothing major there. Seems like all of my family members are having tests done, all sorts of stuff over the next few weeks. It seems the bad health is just spreading throughout my entire family tree. But either way, it's nothing major, so I'm going back there over the weekend to keep a company, so I won't be able to record. But after that, next week, I should be back and recording From the Depths once again. So, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.